It is the Anfield Wrap after Tottenham Hotspur 3, Liverpool 6. Get your caps in brackets immediately afterwards on the 6 to make sure that everyone knows it is indeed 6 and it is not a misprint from the Vidi printer as we work through all of this. I am surrounded by Ians. I've got a pair of them. I have got Ian Salmon and I've got Ian Ryan, and I've got the main Mo himself here, Mo Stewart, joining me for this one. It is the run-up to Christmas. It's the last Anfield Wrap before Christmas Day, and Peloton is the official digital fitness partner of Liverpool FC. And if you're wondering about a gift or something like that, you might want to link those two things up, not least because it all saves us from the embarrassment of gym in January. You can grow up and be beyond that. You can do it in the sanctity of your own home and not feel judged. Not that I'm sure gyms do that sort of thing these days, but you know, how would I know? Instead, I am on the Peloton, and Peloton prides itself on empowering its members, and we're teaming up to show fans how we score together through thousands of workouts. There's 14 plus disciplines. I'm going to have a go at a couple of them, and I'll feed back on them in January for you. I'm into the stretching. I've had enough of waking up and actually feeling 43. So instead, we're going to see if we can do something about that and go on from there and not just ride the bike from this point onwards. But we're going to be doing that as well. Going to get some milestones in as well in January, and I'll let you know. I'm going to get Gibbons on it as well too. Also, there's been loads of good stuff with Liverpool around it all over the course of the year. There's been the Peloton issue with LFC rapid fire questions. That's been really, really good as well. And two Peloton members that are part of the Liverpool FC Peloton community, Jamie Baines and Phil McDonnell, won a co-branded bike between Peloton and LFC, and they got tickets to the Manchester City game. So keep an eye across all the Peloton's channels and go from there. They are Liverpool Football Club's official digital fitness partner for the year. All right then. Because of course, Force a 3-6, Ian Salmon. Because of course, 3-6. They did the thing on the commentary. I noticed earlier on in the match, and I think Peter Drury said, and 0-0 is a 25-1 shot in this one. I don't know if anyone looked into 3-6, but we all should have.
I didn't have money on it. I wish I had. I wish I had. I am in that weird situation where that scoreline really flatters Spurs, but each of their goals is deserved and they're really good goals, and we do go a little bit of sleep of 5-1, which I think you're allowed to. But 10-1 wouldn't have flattered us in any way, shape or form. Armati came in from their game when they had a shower, came down with just scores. He's like, I've scored already. I'm like, that's our 11th shot. And we're 15 minutes in. I don't know how long we are. I don't know what time it is anymore. But by the time we scored, we could have been 5-0 up. It's a ridiculous game of football, and it's one of those, we genuinely are that good. I think I wasn't annoyed by Spurs' 2 goals, although I can accept that Arna was a little bit annoyed by them. Mo was obviously a little bit annoyed by them. And it's just kind of like, they didn't deserve those 2 goals. The lads did because they kept working, but the team didn't deserve it. The manager didn't deserve it. They hadn't done anything to deserve having 3 goals. They deserved to lose 9-1 at the very, very best. It's one of the most outstanding, certainly 60 minutes of football I think I've ever seen. And the joy of it is we don't break quickly anymore. We just glide up the pitch and then punish you.
There is something with it, Mo, where I'm delighted it was the Sunday 4:30. You know, I think that if this is another time, you know, it can get somewhat lost in the wash. It was the final game of a weekend where actually maybe Bournemouth and Manchester United aside, though I don't think that should have been that much of a shock. The story of the weekend was what Liverpool then go and do to Tottenham, the performance, and I think that's the whole point to Ian's, the on the hour. It's Liverpool's best hour of the season. It's prime time. Feast your eyes on this. This is how good Liverpool are. Sit there and talk about it at your Christmas dinner table on the 25th. Thank you very much indeed. The whole country.
Exactly. Like you say, everybody is watching it. And after a whole week where the questions had been about, well, how will Liverpool deal with it if Chelsea take the lead, if Chelsea have come all the way back, etc., etc., etc. Well, they didn't. And then we absolutely went and said, no, there is still gap. There is still a distance between first and second, whether it's spiritually, whether it's actually in the table. And I think for all of Chelsea's talk about not being ready for being in a title race, that was a team on Sunday who are absolutely ready to be in a title race. And I mean, I'm unlike Ian because every single Spurs goal did annoy the hell out of me. It really did. Like, I was looking forward to, like, Liverpool have beaten Leeds 6-0 and 6-1 a couple of times. I was looking forward to giving Spurs exactly the same kind of business. And then, yeah, the only 2 players who turned up for them then ended up scoring. But I'm able now, with the cold light of day, to look beyond their consolations and look at what we gave them. And people talk about statement victories. I think, considering how big that game had the potential to be, not just because of what I said about Chelsea, but also because of this was another big away performance. Liverpool hadn't been able to win away at Arsenal. Liverpool should have won away at Newcastle and weren't able to. This time they were not letting anything to chance. They were going to go out there and they were going to take those 3 points.
They rose to the challenge, Ian, Ryan, of playing these maniacs, this way of doing it against Tottenham, the way Tottenham want to do it. I think certainly up until I think for the entirety of the first hour, but let's just sort of at least limit to start with to the first half. Yes, even in that half, Tottenham got what was made to feel like a consolation. But the extent to which Liverpool didn't just do what they did against Tottenham by virtue of being better at a basketball-style game, they managed to make it where it was a bit like a basketball-style game, but the basketball was only going one way. Yeah. It was everything that would have been Tottenham's sort of, we'll accept the cost of this if it means we get some of that. And Liverpool pretty much just went, no, you're not getting any of that, and we're having as much of this as we want. Yeah. And that was an exceptional first-half performance.
Yeah, it was simply stunning from Liverpool. And I think you got a real sense, then you after maybe a minute or two. I said to my mate who was sitting next to, Spurs are in for one today. They are in for one today. And it's probably everything Tottenham were dreading. On the back of a really intense game on the Thursday, which was unnecessarily intense from their point of view. They've played all the big lads. They've had to go again. They've got injuries at the back. And then they've met a Liverpool team. They've ran into a Liverpool team who absolutely meant business. And they got it from minute one. And I think it was great that we almost sent out a little bit of a message as well on the back of those 2 draws where you can maybe start talking yourself into something. Certainly if you're an opposition fan, you can go, well, hang on, they've drawn 2 there. If they don't win again, that's something to maybe have a little look at. But there was none of that. And I think, the manager no doubt will have reminded them about being intense from the start. He's not been happy with some of the starts in recent games. There was none of that this time. You knew exactly what Liverpool were about from the first minute. There's a couple of shots from Salah very, very early on. And it's a big fuck off. We're going nowhere to the rest of the league, to be honest. That's what it felt like to me. We're going absolutely nowhere. And Arsenal go to Palace, they do the business, they play really well on Saturday night, and it probably just give them a little bit of a lift. But then you go and see Liverpool do that on the Sunday, and as you said, in front of the watching world. It was great stuff.
It was, Ian Ryan again, it's one where there's just no hiding place. I think in a game like that, because of what Tottenham do, there's no hiding place. But that, to me, it just felt like it suited all of those Liverpool players down to the ground, to be honest with you. What you want there to be no hiding place, none of us are going to hide. And we're going to be you're going to be the ones who wish there were hiding places. And they were first to absolutely everything, to your point, in that first 15-minute period when they haven't scored a goal. You're just sort of looking at them going, well, they're gonna score a goal in a minute. They had them penned in repeatedly.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. You know it's coming, and I think there was a lot of camera panning to Postecoglou every time they conceded a goal. Certainly the first couple, and obviously he's disappointed with the way those goals come about. But I think he knows it's going to get worse. This is not going to get any better for them. It's going to get absolutely a whole lot worse. And it does play out that way. I think the manager deserves a huge amount of credit, as, by the way, for the team he picks. I think he gets the team absolutely spot on. I know there was some chat about maybe going with a more recognised centre forward. I can understand it to a point, but I just don't think Darwin maybe warranted starting that fixture, was my opinion. I think the lads he played were the lads who you trust most with the ball in possession. They make the smartest decisions. And I think from a movement point of view, even though I understand maybe going with someone more recognised at certain moments, and if Jota had been fully fit, that might have been a more difficult decision. But I think the movement that you get from Gakpo, Diaz and Salah, it's frightening. And when it clicks, it's really, really difficult to defend. And listen, it helps when you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold putting balls in like he does. But I also felt in the weird way, I said this leading up to the game, I knew Diaz would score because of what had happened last year. Football works in mysterious ways sometimes, but it does throw up these scenarios where, because of what happened, it almost felt like this thing was going to happen with Diaz. He was going to at least get one, and he does. And he takes his header really well. All the goals are taken really well. It's breathtaking football at times, and I know Spurs are missing one or two lads, and it was always going to be a difficult afternoon for them. But I almost feel like if they had the best lads out, there'd been very little he could have done with some of that movement, some of that play. And Liverpool are very clever in terms of they will go at you and they will make things awkward, but they're also happy to take the sting out of it and just sit off you and then hit you when you kind of least expect it. And some of the counter-attacking the performances and display from Liverpool and opportunities were just sensational.
every goal, Ian, there's something brilliant in every goal. I'll even be gracious at this point and say that there's something brilliant in a couple of theirs, but there's something brilliant in every goal from a Liverpool point of view. Trent's ball for the first is one. The Joe Gomez punch into midfield for the second. You know, there's the flick on and then surge and run from Szoboszlai for Szoboszlai's there. Like every single one of the goals, it's the old line that, you know, to score a goal, you either need to do one brilliant thing or two very good things. And there's just all over the place. There's just two very good things over and over again for all 6 of Liverpool's goals.
Well, I think it's you can sum that up by the fact that you just mentioned Szoboszlai's goal, and the bit that I thought was most impressive about Szoboszlai's goal was Mo's pass.
There we are.
Because it's a stunning pass. It's the Mo of 3-4 years ago would have tried to get past the defenders, go through both of them, but you can see them catching up. Obviously, a little bit of pace has gone. He doesn't play the obvious pass to Diaz on his left, which would be sensible since it's on his left foot. Instead, he plays a pass across his own body to the lad who's got all the space on the right, and then he has a touch and then puts it through the lad's legs. But that pass from Mo is one of the most intelligent things I've seen anyone do on a football field. It's just incredible. The vision, the intelligence, the awareness, the skill. It looks like it's something that's easy and obvious once it's happened. It's like the Cruyff turn. I know it's not like a Cruyff turn, but the first time Johan Cruyff does the Cruyff turn is the first time it's ever happened, ever, because he hasn't tried it before. Mo just does that because that's the quality the lad's got. And that's the bit that we're not even talking about immediately because of how good Szoboszlai's run was and how good that whole break was. And it's quite an instructive thing. I very rarely talk about my wife on these shows, especially any that involve Everton, but she was half watching the game with me. And she was like, well, this is just easy. Why how are you just walking through them? How is it this easy to do this? It was this easy to do this because that's what we can do, and this is. I think the third goal is going to be one of the key points of the season. I think what we do with that third goal, on top of the fact that we've gone 2-0 up, it's been a piece of cake to get 2-0 up. We then let in the one goal that did actually annoy me.
Yeah,
the third worried me a little because it looked like they were getting a bit of a foothold in the game that they'd never been in. But that first goal that they scored, they should never have been in the game. They were dead and buried, and we were on like 15 shots at that point. But they've got a goal off. It's a really good finish by Maddison. But we just go and score the third. And we score a really good third. And we score an absolute quality with options all over the field. And everything we did during that game, everybody was an option. And we did the pre-match warm-up on Friday. And this is literally the team that we all thought would play. And I know I kind of turned the end of the show into quite an Ange-heavy experience because I don't just go over his, "Are you not entertained?" bollocks from the night before. And what we saw, I felt sorry for Ange when I saw him being interviewed after the game because he looked like a man who was absolutely destroyed, whose ideology had just come up against his limitations, and we had shown how far ahead of his ideology we are. And that's with our manager having been in situ for 4 months at the moment. We're in an incredible place, and the way he's improved players who are already very, very good, he's improved a team that was already an exceptional team. It's that moment where everything we're doing at our best has got touches of genius in it.
There is, well, as boring as that sounds off the back of touches of genius, Mo, and for a 6-3, I think they really get the line right.
Yeah.
And that means that the press is absolutely right. And they've worked out, I think, I said before, they've worked out where the space is, they've worked out where the space will be, and they've worked out where they need to press Tottenham and where they can go. No, it's all right, you can have it there. I thought, for instance, there was a lot of with the goalkeeper and Dragerson. Oh no, you two can have the ball.
Yes.
You two have the ball. Let's see what you do when we cover everyone else and we jump. And they're a bit like, oh God, because it's almost Dragerson's worst nightmare to be out the ball at his feet and not be closed down. It's just little details like that which I think Liverpool get right all over the park, and especially in that first hour period until we get to 5-1.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because one of the things we've seen about Slot is how he plans every different scenario, and the players have always said it's amazing how many things that he says are going to happen before the game end up happening in the game. And all the talk, particularly around Fraser Forster, around him kicking it, the expectation is, well, clearly he's going to start looking to do it long a few times. And the very first time he gets the ball, he tries a little dink and he goes straight to Salah. And to be fair, Salah should score. And you can just sense the cold beads of sweat appearing on the back of their neck, just thinking, uh-oh. And from there on, like you say, it was just about baiting them into things. And that was my favourite thing about the whole game. So many different instances where Tottenham thought that they were doing what we didn't want them to do, only to suddenly be made aware, no, that's exactly what we wanted you to do, and now we're going to take the ball and we're going to go the other direction. And the link up, I think, between Gomez and Trent in particular, I really liked it, because it was almost like they were waiting for Spurs to show their car hand, and then we were able to put it into it. So the way that Gomez passes it to Trent, waits the perfect time and then passes it into Trent, so they haven't got time to cover him, so he's got all that space. And this is after using Salah so expertly to kind of push them back, and so they're all worried about getting Salah, we can't let Salah get the ball, and then because of that, there's space for everyone else to work in. And it was just one part of the game affected the next part of the game, affected the next part of the game. But, and we mentioned about Spurs playing on Thursday. This is why you rest 7 players. Because if you think about it, all 7 of those players who were rested really kind of came to the party in this game. And the intensity that was needed to press them and hem them in and keep them hemmed in and to basically take away all of their options was on full display. And then obviously they thought that they'd done the job, and then they hadn't done the job. But you can kind of forgive them that.
Oh, you can absolutely you can forgive them that, Mo, but it is sort of, and listen, I think if anyone else at the point at which it's 5-1, especially on your opponent's ground, I think the arm's length we're all declaring here, boys, is, 9 times out of 10 everyone rolls with that. People don't say no, we're going to keep going, and that is the sort of madness of them. And that's why on pre-match stuff that I was doing, one of the things I was saying was you just got to keep hitting them. You can't kill them.
We said the same.
You've just got to keep hitting them. And they're so embroiled in themselves that the game isn't even safe at 5-1. That when Salah makes it 4 and 5, you should think, oh, maybe these aren't critical goals, this is a bit of stats padding. No, they were critical goals, and then even at 5-1 it still took the 6th in the end to seal it.
It did. And again, I think you can understand the way that 5-1 normally means you can just shut it down. But we had already said that this is the exception, and I suspect that Arne Slot had said exactly the same thing. So you can imagine him going in the dressing room like, what did I tell you? Just keep scoring. Like why was this not 9-1? It's when it was 5-3. I'll tell you, I would have loved to see Slot's face when it went to 5-3, because I bet he would have been livid. Because I was annoyed. Because, again, you understand over the course of a rhythm of the season, there are times where you want to try and manage the game. You don't want to have to go full ball all game, every game. You want to be, particularly in this period of the season where there's lots of things coming at you. But there are times, and frankly, the reason why he would have given them all that day off on Wednesday is like, I want you 100% from minute 0 to minute 90. That's why you're getting this day off. And they thought that they could cheat, and he probably proved them wrong.
Well, and Tottenham proved them wrong, and that's the oddity of this. He's a manager who comes in for a lot of criticism on one hand, but on the other hand, there is a thing where his players do not stop playing. No. They just keep playing all the way through, and I think it's something to really bear in mind for the League Cup game. It's the draw I wanted is Tottenham in the League Cup semi-final, but there is a bit of a flip side of it, which is, if you think they're pretty mad for 90 when they're trying to plan 180, that first game at Spurs, at no point will that be dead. That could finish something mad like 7-4 because they will just keep going all the way through those 90 minutes. You've got to bear it in mind. We'll come back onto that. We'll come back onto this game, Ryan. I just want to do the bigger picture, which is that I think that it had to be won regardless, this game, in a number of ways. Listen, if we hadn't won it, we'd all sort of say, well, they're still top and all of that sort of stuff, but it would have meant no league win since December the 1st. As it is, Liverpool just basically swagger into Christmas in a way which is, we're in charge of this league table, and I think that is dangerous for the rest of the league. We all know that too often this club's been top of Christmas and not gone on and won the title. We know that, but there is this thing here where I think that after that Chelsea result, but even despite it, they had to win that game. They had to put this marker down. They have now, and the bigger picture looks absolutely rosy.
The bigger picture looks glorious, yeah. I said before, I think it was a reminder to everyone, but it's also sometimes important to kind of remind yourselves and obviously the players and stuff that, it just felt like a huge game where you don't like calling them must-win at this stage of the season, especially to Tottenham. It should never feel like it's must-win when you're top of the league. But because of what had gone on before, it just felt like it was a little bit like that. And then you see what happened to Goodison Park. And listen, I think most people would have expected maybe Chelsea to get a win there. But Everton are a team that sometimes just can frustrate you. You see it the previous week against Arsenal. So, yeah, it's a really...
And it was very, very wind.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it just felt like one where Liverpool have sent a real message to the rest of the league, and it's put them in an unbelievable position now because the fixtures do look slightly kinder. There's Leicester on Boxing Day. They look a little bit of a bag of rags at the minute. Manchester United aren't that far behind. West Ham have suddenly found a way not to get beat, but you still fancy the Reds to be able to go there. So at this moment in time, the way the fixtures are, you don't see that many opportunities, and listen, touch wood, because football can surprise you, where Liverpool should be dropping points. You can look at those fixtures and say, there's absolutely ways home for us in those games, even with a little bit of tweaking. And I know that will be some tweaking, but I just think the manager over the last 7-10 days deserves so much credit. Mo talks about the Southampton game there. He nails that, but he nails the Fulham game. All that tactical switch stuff that he was doing in-game to get Liverpool to a position where they almost won it. They probably should have won it when you think about how the game was unravelling. Fulham didn't really know what day it was for part of that match. And then it leads to what we go and do against Tottenham then, where he has been able to rest lads, and they look fresh, they look like they've got a fire and stuff. So, unbelievable credit to the manager.
Arsenal remain the biggest threat?
I don't know. I don't know.
Are you also thinking Bournemouth?
I'm thinking Bournemouth massively.
I'm not messing. They're 11 back, but it's our next very difficult game on paper. Bournemouth
they're
away.
11 back, City are 12 back.
Yeah, I'm
with a game in hand.
And also Bournemouth look good at football.
Yeah, which City don't. Chelsea, I think Chelsea, despite obviously the results against Everton, Chelsea, we were talking earlier in the season saying they look like they're on the edge of becoming a very good football team. I think they've become a very good football team, and we're in this weird situation where for the first time in years, I don't think the Chelsea manager is an idiot. I think Chelsea have got themselves a very good manager who very quietly is doing a very good job, and they're threatening. And I think Arsenal, have a meltdown within them. Once Arsenal a little bit further back, because we're 6 heads of them.
6. I wrote 5 yesterday, but it's 6.
So effectively, if we win the game in hand, we're 9 points ahead of them at Christmas. That's a ridiculous position to be in. And
I don't care about that game in hand right now, Ian. I'm not even adding it on.
Especially with it being a derby.
Exactly. It's good us in a way, but also let's just go with literally where the numbers are. Yeah. You worry about games in hand when you want to be catching people up. When you've got this gap, we'll just have the gap. Thank you very much.
I like the game in hand as well as the gap, because it for me it just adds another 3 points for us. I'm not confident on anything that we do at the moment. I think Arsenal in this weird position where the first time the City have started looking ropey, Arsenal aren't suddenly in a position to capitalise on it. I think their heads are more than capable of going because they go on a semi-regular basis. So I currently think that Chelsea is as big a threat as Arsenal are, possibly bigger.
I do think Arsenal can get it back together, but I do...
They are very good.
I think they could... I would back both of them the ability to go on a run of wins, but the point is that Arsenal have to go on a run of wins. Every single drop point from here on in makes it an even bigger chasm. They've got no margin for error whatsoever. For Chelsea, I agree with Ian. I do think that they're a good team. I do wonder how January's going to treat them, not just because of the fixtures, but because this is the first time when some of the lads who probably haven't got in as many games as they would like could start to go to the manager and go, well, can I go somewhere else? I'm not sure about this. You don't really care about me, so can I go somewhere else? And then if that comes and then suddenly they're hit with a couple of injuries, that's when it gets a little bit more difficult.
And the answer is no, you can't. You're on a 12-year contract.
Well, I mean, loans perhaps, we'll see. But I just think that there's potential for it to get more difficult for them second half of the season. But I'm also of the opinion that I'm currently confident enough in us and our processes to be like, I'm soon not going to have to worry about anybody. So I have done the thing which we probably shouldn't do, which I've looked towards the fixture list towards the end of the season. And there's that run of 4 games where we play Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal and Brighton. The last, well,
4 of the last 5.
4 of the last 5. Like, I'm thinking that we are playing well enough to make those games largely irrelevant. That's what I'm thinking. Now, that might be me getting ahead of ourselves, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people in the comments telling me exactly that. But the confidence that this team are giving me from their watching them and from seeing how they solve different problems is where I'm at.
Yeah, no, it's worth saying that, you know, Tottenham away, at least on paper, was one of Liverpool's probably 6th or 7th hardest remaining fixtures. That one's done now. So, you know, you've got obviously an away game at the Etihad, so you've got Arsenal at home.
I put Forest in there as well.
You've got away at the City Ground on the 14th of January. You've got away at Stamford Bridge. You've got away at Goodison. And I think that I may be Villa away, dependent on when that falls and the mood Villa are in and what they're playing for at that time, because that could get knocked back later into the season as well, into that run that you're talking about. So I think that they remain the sort of the fixtures that are on the horizon, as they'll take a lot of doing. But this is to your point there, the only bottom 10 side we played at home was Brentford. Brentford are quite good as well, but we haven't played a single of the sides that are up for relegation at home. The bottom 6, and I know again for us Everton is a little bit different, but I think at Anfield it is again a little bit different. But we haven't played any of the bottom 6. Leicester coming up is the first one of those sides, and to me, that I'm not saying that those points are gimmies. They're not. You need to earn them. You need to play well. But it's a nice.
There's
a
a chance that our rivals have got tougher games while we're playing those games,
and then at which point then they almost feel like 6 points is to us possibly.
I think at the minute though, because Chelsea are a little bit of an unknown in the sense that they've not kind of been the distance. This version of Chelsea hasn't kind of gone to late April, early May. I can see them having more days like they had at Goodison Park, where it's not quite clicking. You know, maybe Palmer's not quite at it as much as he might be in other games, and you can't always rely on that kind of one player or two players. I just think with Chelsea there might be 1 or 2 more bumps in the road. I think the manager knows that. He's probably playing it a little bit cute when he says it to an extent. But I think with Arsenal, because they have been around the block a little bit more and they've not managed to get over the line and win it yet, but they've been thereabouts for a couple of years now, I still probably see them as the one who are more likely to be able to go on this run. But even then this season, they've not really been able to put like 3-4 wins together after without stumbling a little bit. And the Saka news, I don't think it's quite out there yet how bad it is. You know, Arteta always kind of plays these things up a little bit, so we'll have to wait and see. But if that was a prolonged injury, or he's out for a prolonged period of time, I should say, again, a little bit like the Odegaard one, you could see that hitting them over a period of games. Now, listen, they've got Ipswich on Boxing Day, no doubt they'll take care of that one. But then there are other games. You go to Brentford, I think it's a 5:30 on New Year's Day, something like that. I know Brentford get beat the weekend, but they've got a really good record at home.
They've got Brighton coming up as well.
Brighton as well. Again, you know, their manager's not too happy with their performances at the minute. At some point, that probably switches and they start, you know, putting teams away, and they are good against the better sides, Brighton as well. So I think it probably will be Arsenal over Chelsea. I know the league table doesn't quite say that at the minute, but you'd have to say from our point of view, you know, bring it on.
Okay, individual performances then on the day. I mean, you could do them all. You can make an argument for absolutely any of them within reason. But we'll start with the obvious: Ian Salmon, Mo Salah. I mean, one of the key questions from yesterday is can he take over? Can he overtake Gordon Hodgson this year? I'd have felt that might have been perhaps a little bridge too far before a ball was kicked this season. I don't think it is now. Hodgson, he's about 15 all comps behind Gordon Hodgson, having now taken over Billy Liddell. He is an all-time Liverpool great. There is no getting away from it. You can say it over and over again. You can even feel as though it's a bit boring to say, but it's worth saying because we're witnessing greatness week in, week out.
He is one of the greats. He's not just an all-time Liverpool great. He is one of the greats. For me, and you know, I am repeating myself. I'm literally repeating myself from something that you'll see on video that I did half an hour ago. And I was repeating myself then. He has given me more pleasure than any other Liverpool player, bar Kenny Dalglish. And I think he is one of the greatest players we've ever had. And we have, as again, repeat myself, I'm 61 years old. I've seen a lot of great Liverpool players. We have had, I think, probably more great players than most teams have a right to have. I saw Keegan play, I saw Dalglish play, I saw Rush play. I've seen a lot of players play. I think of all the all-time greats we've had, I've seen the majority of them play, although Hunt and St John were both at the end of their career when I saw them. He's better than the majority. He's as good as any. I'm too old, again, I'm repeating myself again, I'm too old to have heroes, but Kenny will always be my hero. But I adore Mo Salah. I think he's a gift, and I don't think you can fully appreciate how great a player is while he's still playing for you, because you're seeing the moments where it doesn't quite work. You're seeing the moments when you think, has his pace gone a little bit? I remember moments of going, well, Souness has gone now. Why is he still on the pitch? And then blamming one in from 30 yards and saying, Kenny hasn't been the same since he got the broken cheekbone. You know, I don't think he's going to be the same player. And then him giving us another 7 years on top of it. When you're watching them 90 minutes a week, you see the moments where it's not happening for them. But when you put everything together, he's going to have the highlights reel from the gods. He's a ridiculous footballer, and we have been privileged to spend our lives on the same planet as him at the same time as him. He's Bowie and Prince, basically. He's the Bowie and Prince of footballers. It's unbelievable. It's not even a question of if he takes Gordon Hodgson this season. He's getting Hodgson's goal things. And again, I'm repeating myself again, but honest God, inside my head, Gordon Hodgson played in the 50s because it's such a 50s name.
I think he's 12 behind Hodgson.
Yeah, he's 12 now.
I think Salah, knowing Salah, will be disappointed if he doesn't beat that this season. He needs 13 to
he
go
was
past him.
furious he got took off.
Did
you see he was furious he got took off?
He always is.
It's like, there's goals to be had here, lad. What the fuck do you think you're doing to the manager?
But he'll also know we play Spurs again. Like coming up fairly shortly twice. So there's fucking potentially loads of goals there too. I mean, he might always take in those two games, to be fair, the way Spurs are playing. I think Hodgson's on 2-4-1, Salah's on 2-2-9, something like that. So knowing him, knowing what we've seen over the last, 7-8 years, whatever it is, the appetite for goals, the appetite for greatness. Listen, he's already reached that. We know that. He's been absolutely superb. There's no sign of him letting up either. That's the thing. And there's this contract stuff going on in the background, and we hope it gets sorted soon. But yeah, my God, what a player.
Liverpool win the league, Mo, and to Kenny's point, the Kenny point there from Ian Salmon, it's something Sean Rogers has referenced on review. Liverpool win the league 78-79 and 79-80. And in those two seasons, Dalglish scores in 78-79. Dalglish gets 25 goals, 19 assists according to LFC history. You've done really good work on assists. 79-80, 23 goals, 20 assists for Kenny over the course of that season. I don't think Kenny's the top scorer in the second of the seasons, but he is the top scorer in 78-79. I think because of so many assists, David Johnson ends up top scorer in 79-80. The point being is that they're sort of slightly underrated seasons, these, because of the greatness that we've had with the European Cups and so on. But it shows what one player, Liverpool win both of those titles, and one player was at the centre of all of that. And that one player at that period of time as well was growing just a little bit older, but had the brain, had the nous, had the technique, had everything you need to be that incredible. And that was Kenny Dalglish there. And at the minute, this is the company Mo Salah keeps.
Yeah, and don't forget, he's been with us for a long time. So teams have had loads of time to work out, well, how do you stop Mo Salah? What's the best way? Do you put 2 men in front of him? Do you put 3 men in front of him? Do you let him go on the outside? Do you let him go on the inside? Do you put a wall of 6 around him so he can't pass to anyone? They've tried it all. They've tried it all.
Spurs literally put 3 players around him in the penalty area and he nearly scored.
He nearly scored. Like, I'm obviously not quite as old as Ian, sorry mate, but I'm looking forward to boring the shit out of all of my relatives about Mo Salah by the time I'm his age.
There's another comparison though, Mo, that I want to make, in that I think a bit of the journey that Salah's gone on, I think you're actually seeing Son go on for Tottenham. This idea of he's still quick, but he's obviously not quite as quick as he was. And I think that Son at the minute looks like a bit of a problem for Tottenham, not least because he's got the armband as well. But I think the comparison's really interesting in that Salah's not quite as quick as he was. He's still quick. I don't like the idea he's not quick. You get to see repeatedly in that game. He's still able to, when he's away from a defence, stay away from a defence. You get to see it. And Son's the same. But Son has been a player who's been brilliant in front of goal, consistently outperformed his expected goals. But Salah is so profoundly involved in football matches. And Son, so often this season, even in games Tottenham have won, Son's looked like a passenger.
And he's looked like someone who's missed his telepathic mate in Harry Kane. And you could almost go so far as to say in Christian Eriksen before him and Dele Alli before him as well. Whereas Salah has lost his telepathic mate in Bobby Firmino, and he's got a whole new gang of people, and it's just like, right, okay.
Loads of new telepathic mates.
Yeah, we'll settle. Don't worry, I'll whip you all into shape, it's fine. And the joy that he's taken out of making them better, I think, is probably the only thing that's surprising me. I'm not surprised by his longevity, I'm not surprised by his goals, I'm surprised by how much joy he's taken in everybody else.
He was made up for Szoboszlai.
He was
made up when it went 3-1, it was Szoboszlai. He was genuinely, I know how that obviously he set him up, but he was genuinely, you could see him beaming.
But I think that's why he did set him up.
Yeah.
I think it was because obviously when he's running through, he's got Gakpo and Diaz to one side, and he's like, well, I could pass it to Diaz here. I'd back him to score. I'd back myself to play that pass into his path in a way that he only has to shoot hard and low into the corner. It's a goal, no problem. But he's been slogging his guts out all season and not getting the rewards. I'm going to give it to him, and I trust him to be able to go in there and do the business. And also, I'm thinking that maybe later on in the game, he's going to repay me. And I thought it was really good, interesting, the interview Dom gave after the game, where he was just like, Salah's always shouting. Like, whenever you've got the ball, he's always shouting for it. And it's just like, he's always giving them information about how the game needs to be played. And you can say, oh, well, he just wants the ball, he wants to score, etc. No, he's helping them work out how best to attack everybody, because he knows and he's been through it so many times.
Mo's just hit on something that I had this massive revelation while he was talking. You just said you can't wait to be my age and be banging on about Mo Salah. Can you imagine how good it is to be my age and banging on about Mo Salah? I had somebody from 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who gets to do that?
Get more than one of them. I mean, just the last word on him here now is that it is the all-round contribution. I think at times, there's occasions when we're on the break, and I think we pass to Salah when we shouldn't. I'm sure he's shouting for it, but the play with the ball passes to Salah when he shouldn't. And I think there is a little bit of times when that is almost like, we're on a break here. Mo, can you just sort this out for us? I'll pass it to you because you'll just sort it out. Yeah. And sometimes it is the wrong ball. But that is the extent to which he now just does lead that attack. I think that for a while, it felt like there was even though Mo got more of the goals, there was an equal distribution of labour in terms of intelligence, pace, contribution between him, Mane and Firmino. Liverpool are not a one-man team around Mo Salah. They're not even a one-man attack around Mo Salah, but it is Mo Salah's attack. He does lead it.
Yeah, absolutely fair. I think the point around, or the comparison point with Son as well, I just think Salah's a much better footballer. And
that's my point.
And I like Son. You know, he's been a great player in the Premier League, no doubt about it. But for me, Salah I think he almost kind of sees maybe the pitfalls coming, and he knows he's got to adapt this game. He knew at a time that he had to maybe change his body a little bit and be stronger. You know, because you look back at him in his Chelsea days, he doesn't look that way. But he knew maybe to succeed in the Premier League, I'd have to adapt. I'd have to look slightly different. I'd have to be a little bit more physical, a bit stronger. And now he's as physical as you'd ever want him to be. I mean, you can't get him off the ball. The only way you get him off the ball is fouling him. And that still doesn't get talked about enough, by the way, where he's allowed to be treated however opponents want to treat him, seemingly. And he still is able to deliver in the big games, the big moments, but he's constantly delivering. You know, that stat that's around now, it's at 6 seasons where he's hit double figures for assists and goals. That is sensational.
Or 5.5.
That is, yeah, absolutely. That's unbelievable to be hitting those levels year in, year out, I should say. Absolutely, you know, ridiculous numbers from him. And as I said before, there's no real sign of it kind of stopping. You know, Ben Johnson makes a point last night on the post-match stuff. You know, there's an argument, and I know in his first season he gets all those goals, but in terms of his all-round contribution, there's an argument this is one of his best ever seasons for Liverpool.
This could prove to be his best season.
He's that good, and he's that unplayable at times. And, you know, people will compare the likes of maybe Saka to him and stuff like that, and I understand it to an extent because he's a very good footballer, but we are talking about two players. Yes, they are different in ages, but are putting out very different output. Saka's putting out output that maybe, you know, it's good. It's really good. Salah's output is just ridiculous, and it has been for a long time now.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
you don't want to let Ryan have the last word now.
Yeah, well, I'm
doing his best there.
At the risk of just talking about Mo Salah forever.
I mean, I've got other players on this list. I've never done plays.
I can see the list.
I'm already working out which one I'm crossing out.
I know. But when you talk to Cy Hughes about his book on Salah, he literally said that when Salah came to Chelsea, he looked at the players around and went, I need to be stronger. I need to be physically more than I am at the moment in order to do this. He's questioned himself since day one. He's invented himself on an ongoing basis, and this is why he's better than everybody else.
There we are. That will do us. We'll move on and talk about the other lad who gets a couple of goals there, Diaz, Mo. Ian said before about him playing up top. I think he was just an all-round live wire. I would have preferred the manager to have gone with a more conventional centre-forward option, but I can see why he does what he does. But I think the best thing about, for instance, the Diaz opening goal is it's a conventional centre-forward's goal. Yeah. He finds a little bit of space. He goes with the enormous header. He sees the ball coming. And I think to me, that's the most important part. His instinct is, this fella's going to put a belter in here, let's go.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember the conversation me and Phil had on Thursday about the idea of Diaz being up top, and Phil was very, very anti it. And the point I think
he'd like 2 Diaz's, is what I would say in Phil's defence. I think it's more of a Gakpo thing where he's concerned, but go on.
My argument was always the fact that if you've got players who are unsure of themselves at central defence, and you've got a guy he's not doing what a normal centre forward does, he doesn't naturally occupy them all games, so he takes them into places they don't want to be or they're unsure about, then it can make them more indecisive, and that's exactly what Diaz does. So for that goal, he arrives late, like an attacking midfielder would. He's not there and then they get a chance to battle with him and jockey with him and maybe put him off. It's that he knows the perfect time to make that run and arrive at a time when he's unmarked. And it's that intelligence of knowing when to go, and also, like I say, just making the defenders really unsure of themselves. Because there are a couple of times where Gakpo's wide left and he looks to his left, and between him and the touchline is Diaz. It's like, what are you doing here? And that's because Szoboszlai is the false nine. So it was almost like the two of them had already kind of made a plan before the game to say that, look, I'm going to do their heads in, and while they're working out where I've gone, you sneak in there and do damage. Because another thing, and we're probably going to come on to talk about Dom now, but the thing I liked about him is that if you freeze it just before the shot is taken, on all 6 goals, he's in the penalty area.
Yeah.
All 6.
We may as well combine them then, because I think that what the manager actually ends up doing, it's not too dissimilar to a Brighton formation, this, where there's maybe more Brighton under the previous manager, where there's almost 2 attacking midfielders through the middle of the pitch who each take turns to go and occupy, and the 2 wide players end up higher, especially Salah, but I think the 2 wide players end up higher, because I think Szoboszlai's all-round sort of contribution, the amount of work he now does do for Salah. There was a couple of times where, for instance, Salah was almost just, and I don't mean this as a criticism, I think this is a deliberate decision, Salah's almost jogging back into position, but whilst he does that, Szoboszlai absolutely hammers over to get in front, cover for that. The ball then goes back inside, and he's like, right, you're back here now, I'll go back to attacking midfield, I'll hammer over there. He's doing all that. It's 1 goal, it's 2 assists. It is almost the consummate Dominic Szoboszlai performance, Ian. It's the one the manager would have wanted. It's the one he got. And Kulusevski, in loads of ways, is theoretically a better attacking midfielder on paper. But that game was Dominic Szoboszlai's, not Kulusevski's.
Yeah, he ran all over them. And you talked there about what the manager would have wanted. When he's not digging him out, but when he's talking about it earlier on in the season, said he wants more goals, he wants more assists. That's what he saw at the weekend. That's exactly it.
That's what he wants.
Exactly what he's after. And he can say to Szoboszlai, now, you've nailed it there, but I want you to go and repeat that on more than one occasion. And he's capable of doing it. And I think, the frustration with Szoboszlai at times is just that, it's in there, but you're not quite seeing the numbers. But for me, it was a game that he absolutely had to play. And I think the manager's not got a lot wrong this season, but maybe the team at Arsenal was one of them where you think, he didn't quite get that one right. The balance on the day didn't look right with Jones, McAllister and Gravenberch. But with Szoboszlai yesterday, it did look a lot better. He's able to cover the ground more than most as well, which does help on it's an old cliche, but on a big pitch. And his performance was just absolutely sensational. Arguably maybe his best performance in a red shirt.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to say that. And as I said before, you know it's in there, it's in the locker. But the challenge to him now, and the manager's great at this, he will throw down the gauntlet to players. Go and do that again, go and repeat it. There was the stuff midweek that come out about Trent where, Trent's been great in certain moments, but the manager's demanding more. It's like, okay, yeah, you've come on at Newcastle and been great, but I want to see that more. There's times when you're not quite at that level over 90. His message was clear to the boys yesterday. It was a little bit too sloppy for him. There's a 15-minute spell where if you drop your level, that's what can happen in any Premier League game. And sometimes it's no bad thing to maybe have that reminder in a game where you are really comfortable. The thing will be, though, in 3 away games, there's 8 goals now. And no one wants to kind of get too hung up on that, given how well he played. But, the 2 at Southampton, the 3 at Newcastle and the 3 yesterday, the manager will be looking at that. The perfectionist that he is, and he will be demanding that they are better across the 90 in key moments where the level does not fucking drop.
There's on the next the way the fixtures sort of pan and from here, Ian, it wouldn't surprise me if you don't see Szoboszlai against Leicester. It wouldn't surprise me if he's one of the ones who misses out. He's just done 95 minutes there, as you say, done all that run and all that work. But also because I think the manager will have a big circle around, right, you're going to go and do that again, but now West Ham.
Yeah.
Then you're going to do it again, Man United. And then it might be that you may not get Tottenham midweek in the League Cup next time. Or maybe he does, but then he always doesn't get the cup game. My point is, I wonder whether or not he's going to look at certain games on the road, big matches, and he's just going to say, you're playing all of them. Let the other boys worry about maybe ones where it's a bit more of a flat track bully, because you're not a flat track bully. You don't want a flat track. And I wonder whether or not that's what we're going to see now with Szoboszlai, with the way the manager's going to use him.
I think it would make sense, because I think there's been times where you've maybe looked at him, certainly last season, you felt like his legs were gone a little bit, and maybe we'd overplayed them. So I think for me, I'd look at that Leicester game and think, let's take care of one or two. You know, Curtis Jones, I talked about Nunes before, who I don't think can have hard lines that he's not playing, because I don't think he's done enough. In a Liverpool shirt, if I'm honest, this season to start some of those big football matches. But Curtis Jones probably has. His own performances have been at such a level where you think he's one who's probably thinking, I've had hard lines there because I am playing really, really well. But I just think in terms of the balance, the manager got it spot on. But I think against Leicester, absolutely perfect to bring Curtis in for that. And there'll be one or two others as well. You know, I said before, they're a bit of a bag of rags. So let's not go mental and make wholesale changes. But, you know, one or two feels fine. And yet something like a Curtis Jones in for that Leicester game would make loads of sense to me.
I want to talk about Robertson, Ian, Salmon. Again, there was a pre-match. There was the idea that Kulusevski could give him a ton of time. And you get to see a couple of flashes of it. Kulusevski's quick, looking to run away from him on that side. But Robertson always sort of does a diligent job with his man. And then all of a sudden, I just think it's Mark to me. He's giving Kulusevski a problem. He's pinning him back going the other way. He's giving him a nightmare. He's involved in goals. He's involved in build-up for goals. He does brilliantly with one in the second half where he wins that tackle, and then from there Liverpool break. You know, to my point, there's something brilliant in all of these. If he doesn't make that, they're in, and they've got a really good chance. They've took their risk and they could get reward, but instead Robertson wins it, and he's backing up the attack as it goes. It's a funny thing at the minute with Robertson, because he is talked about after every single match, but it always feels to me as though when that's the case, it's framed in a negative context. I think he plays really well.
I thought it was excellent again. I mean, in terms of everybody on the field was excellent. Everybody did the role exactly the way they were wanted to. We could be in the end days of Andy Robbo's Liverpool career. He will get slower. He is getting older. It's one of those things that happens. But when you need him, he digs in, because the quality doesn't disappear, because we know exactly how good he is. There's a moment, I think, second half, where Kulusevski's breaking down the right. Robbo not only catches up with him, he gets the ball, takes it round him, and clears it upfield. So when he needs it, the pace is still there. When he needs to dig in, he can dig in. It's that old thing, the first couple of yards are in your head, and he's had a bit of a shaky season, but, you know, Arne said he didn't have a pre-season, did he? So... No. You know, it's been a little bit up and down, but he's doing the job he's supposed to do, and there aren't many better left backs in the country.
I'd be giving him Boxing Day off as well.
Yeah.
I think Tsimikas is probably now at the point where he can start a game, but I do think we have to make sure that we're not putting too much effort and energy into him. We need to handle him a little bit with care, because he proved yesterday that he still can achieve those levels, but he maybe needs a little bit more help to do it than he did previously. And so that involves using Tsimikas as a way of kind of breaking up his game. So like we were saying with Szoboszlai, just saying, okay, when you are on the pitch, you don't have to worry about conserving energy, just go out there and give your all. But I was pleased, because obviously Kulusevski is, well, their most potent weapon right now, and don't get me wrong, he played a very good game, but second half, like, it was almost at the point where when we kind of took our eye off the ball, he was there ready and waiting.
And he also came inside, they moved him, you know, and I think that was the right thing to do.
They chipped off Maddison, like, I mean, come on, that was obvious. And yeah, he was a lot more dangerous, but I do think that it was the moment you talk about where he tackles the ball and then he goes and runs, the way he ran, the word purpose, he was just like, this is a goal. This is a goal coming. I've just helped create a goal. And I just love that. And the character he is, I love it when he comes back, and he comes back fighting, because Ian's right. We might be seeing him getting towards the end of his career, but I don't think anyone wanted him to go out as a damn squib. I think we wanted to be able to say, okay, he's still giving he needs to no longer be the first choice, but he can still give us stuff up to the very end. That's what I want from him.
You're very quick, you're going to get seconds. Joe Gomez.
Oh my goodness me. Well, Joe Gomez, I wrote just on my Substack page about him and about Trent, so go and read that. But the relationship between the two of them, attacking and defending, I thought was marvellous. He was there to cover Trent when he needed to, and he was there to deliver to Trent when he needed to, and I think that he's an immense player. And we forget he's still only 27 years old.
Like us, LFC Tours are selling vouchers right up to Christmas Day, so you can buy gift experiences for any of the Anfield Tours or experiences from lfc.tv/tours. If you're looking for something to do between the Liverpool matches this Christmas as well, Jimmy Case is doing a Legends Q&A on the 27th of December. Molby, Big Jan on the 28th. Excellent stuff indeed, and there'll be good additions to those tours. So 27th and 28th for them. LFC Tours, lfc.tv/tours. Want to talk about that game against Leicester, Ian? I know you're about to go and host pre-match warm-up. You're resting Robertson, resting Szoboszlai, maybe resting one of the front three, two of the front three. What's your thought process?
Yeah, I think the manager will look to make one or two changes. I think the Robertson point Mo makes there, I think spot on. I think you're still capable of getting high-level performances out of him, but I don't think he's now a player where you can maybe play him 3 times in a week, as an example. I think that's where you're going to see drop-off from him.
So if you've got Leicester at home...
It just feels like a sensible one where, as I say, you don't need to make 5 or 6 or anything stupid like that. And the manager won't do that, I'm almost certain of it. But I just think, a couple of tweaks in certain areas should be absolutely fine. Tsimikas, I think we'd probably all like a bit of an upgrade at left-back, maybe in the summer. But for a game like that, he's been perfectly fine for the majority of the season, Tsimikas. And what he does off you is, he offers you a really good delivery as well at set pieces, which could be a way home for Liverpool. I don't think Leicester want to go there at the minute, so yeah. And I think in terms of other parts of the pitch, I'd expect to see a Jones, as I said before. I've give Nunes a little bit of stick on this show, but I still think he'll have decent moments in a Liverpool shirt. This might be one of those where he can just get off the mark. I'm not sure it's starting, because I think if Jota's close to being able to start, he looked a little bit rusty when he came on yesterday. I think this might be one for Jota. But people like Salah,
start them both 4-2-4, bit of sauce.
I mean, I just don't think the manager will kind of tweak it too much. I just think it'll be maybe gentle tweaks in 1 or 2 areas. I'd expect to see no more than 3 changes personally, but listen, we never know.
Fancy a bit of 4-2-4? Can I talk you into it?
You can talk me into it, but I think it makes perfect sense to just carry on as we're doing. If the systems work, and then keep going with the system. It's the little tweaks that I think the tactical brilliance of our manager at the moment is that what he does with Szoboszlai over the weekend, where he makes him an orthodox number 9 basically, and has Diaz playing around him. So it's not quite a 4-2-4, but it's exploiting the midfield a little differently to how he's normally done it. So it's those little moments we'll turn around. So I wouldn't like to see a full-on 4-2-4. I think the shape we're playing works. Just carry on with that. So Leicester's a game where we shouldn't be worried about it, but we saw what happened when we got to 5-1, decided not to be worried about being 5-1 up.
They're not badly spaced out, are they, the games? In terms of how it's fallen this Christmas, it doesn't feel...
This is the big turnaround. The big turnaround, not the one now, the big turnaround's Leicester to West Ham.
Yeah.
So that's what I think, he might do something that... I take the idea he might only do 2 or 3 changes, but...
He'll do more?
I think he might just have an eye on... I want a first 11 at West Ham. I want what I think is my first 11 at West Ham, because then it's a week to United. So, West Ham is just a tougher game.
Yeah.
I think you might feel a little bit differently about them if it was West Ham home and Leicester away. But I think that order of them, I just wonder whether or not he might just feel a little bit like, I don't want to pick for West Ham. I'll work backwards from that, rather than, as we're doing to an extent, we're working forwards from Tottenham, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think he might do, sorry, I think he might do 3, but I think there'll be an opportunity maybe in his head. If we're comfortable here on 60, there's a lot of changes coming. You're going to get a lot of Harvey Elliott, for instance. You are going to get, if Jota doesn't start and he'd be coming on 60, Nunes probably comes on around that mark as well. So I think the manager will have an eye on, let's take care of business, boys. Let's have a really, really good hour. Same intensity as we did against Tottenham. We put these away. It's not always as simple as that, but we try and put these away, and then I can start to make some changes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, basically. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Gakpo's one who gets a rest as well. Then Diaz goes back to the left wing. Then it's basically a toss-up between Nunes and Jota, who plays up front, and then the other one comes on maybe for the other, or maybe to go 4-2-4, depending on how he feels. I wouldn't be amazed either if we see a bit of Endo in this game as well. I think that Gravenberch is still one yellow away from a suspension, so there's a world in which Endo's going to have to play at some point. So I think keeping him ticking over is not the worst idea in the world.
And he deserves it after the game the other night. He was excellent.
We scored more goals away than we have at home over the course of the season, but it is, as I said before, we've only played one team who currently are in the bottom 10, but Liverpool have scored more goals away from home so far, so I wonder if it might be a little different, but I take everyone's point and they're all more than fair enough. Leicester just got walloped at home against Wolverhampton Wanderers as well, 3-0 down at half-time, which led to him making 2 changes on 46, well, at half-time, and then making 2 more on 55. The Ruud van Nistelrooy, the current Leicester manager, which I think is suggestive of a man who doesn't necessarily like all of his footballers yet. That's what that sort of screams of to an extent. So it will be interesting to see how that comes and how that develops. And we'll have everything for you post-match on the Anfield Wrap on both audio and video. I mentioned before, Ian's about to do pre-match warm-up. The show's right the way through the day today. Be out today and a couple tomorrow morning, quite early as well for you. But we are having a relatively straightforward Christmas Eve. Nothing on Christmas Day, I am sorry to say, but we'll all be all right with that as well. Back on Boxing Day big time with the reaction to that Leicester game, so you know where we stand. Then loads of stuff on the 27th coming out, both on the 27th over the weekend, then reaction to West Ham, loads of stuff on the 30th, and there's even talk of a quiz next Monday night, so we'll see if these 3 gentlemen can make next Monday night's quiz and go from there. There was some discussion of it yesterday, all lined up. Just to be crystal clear, Paddy Fitzsimons is doing it and he's convinced he's going to win. So that's sorted out for you.
Any dice involved, though?
Sorry, couple funnel me in if I get some dice involved. And we're going to put that out for free, by the way, the quiz. It is coming this year. We're going to go from there. There'll be Agony at some point in the next week as well. Everything coming up for you on the Anfield Wrap over Christmas. It's a bit like the Radio Times. We all put specials out at this time of year. Do check them all out as we go. Thank you for your support through the year, but we're not finished yet. One more Anfield Wrap to come. Midweek extra on Friday. Loads and loads to do, but whatever you're doing for the big day, enjoy it your way. Don't feel pressure. Don't feel ridiculousness. Everyone's Christmas is a different Christmas. It's a different experience. There's no right way to do this, and that can include doing absolutely nothing at all. What I'm saying is basically take care of yourself. Thank you very much to Ash for doing the images. You've done it that way. Andy Heaton for the audio, because you have to have done it that way. Otherwise, it simply does not work. A huge thank you to Mo Stewart, to Ian Salmon, to Ian Ryan. It is the 23rd, and on the 25th, you'll do whatever it is you're doing. You'll be tucking into whatever it is you'll be tucking into, and just have a little cheeky moment where you look at the league table on your phone. See you later.